Good morning. So last night was good. It was, good. I don't know. It was a lot better than how I was feeling earlier when I got in to the shelter. But a lot of people came in. A lot of people at the shelter and the tents. Luckily, I got in early, and so I got a spot in the shelter because everything was just so wet, and so I had a dry place to hang up my clothes and, let them dry out from 100% saturation to, 70% saturation this morning. But it really did make a big difference, even though I'm wearing everything wet and cold still. But met some really nice people. Got to know some people that I'd crossed paths with a couple of times, but hadn't had a chance to really talk to. And, we all sat in that shelter from whatever time it was, 2 or 3 o'clock, all night long till we, went to sleep. So, you get to know people pretty well. And so made a few new friends. So that's really neat. And, we're all kind of in this together, which, makes you feel good. We were joking about that, the commisery. We're all trying to figure out how we're going to get across Mount Washington, because it's this literally 12 miles of exposed above the tree line, and it can be pretty dangerous. People are supposed to always check the weather reports like literally the minute before they head across, just to make sure that they can get across without having thunderstorms or a crazy freak snowstorm or something like that. So I think almost all of us have decided we're probably just going to hike like the 10 miles today to Nauman campsite, and it'll be a really short day, but we still have wet, cold clothes. It'd be nice to get in, give stuff even a little more time to dry, and then try and do Mount Washington tomorrow. And from Nauman campsite, to get all the way across Mount Washington to the Osgood tent site, which is the only, that's the next place you can camp at all. Once you get past the tree line, or get into the tree line, into the trees, whatever I'm trying to say. And so that's about 15 miles. So 15 miles might not sound like a lot, but it's some really killer hard stuff tomorrow. So 15 miles is going to be a really hard day. We'd all like to get a little closer to Mount Washington than the Nauman campsite, but the AMC has shut down the area that they used to let hikers stay in, right real close. So blah blah blah. We're all just hiking. We've got trying to stay warm today and hope it doesn't rain again till we get to camp at least. And got a short day, but we actually have one really big climb. I think we're going to hit another 4,000 foot peak today, so it will be hard, but it'll only be 10 miles, so it's doable. Mother Nature's playing tricks on me here. I just stopped to get some water, take my rain jacket off because, I just had warmed up a little bit, so I didn't really need to have it on since it hasn't been raining. And I just took off and it started raining, so normally, on a normal day, I really would not worry about it much. In fact, yesterday I hiked for quite a while in the morning when it was raining without my rain jacket on, but after it got so cold and everything that happened last night, I do not want, my clothes are already wet, my shirt's drying slowly, so I really don't want it getting saturated, so I'm going to stop and put my stuff on. Alright, there we go. As I was putting this on, a day hiker came through, just with his little dinky pack, had a water bladder in it and stuff. Anyway, he kind of looked at me. He's just wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and he's moving real fast and sweating and stuff. he kind of looked at me like, you know, like it's barely sprinkling. I mean, really, you can literally barely feel anything. He kind of looked at me like, what are you doing, man? Putting your rain jacket on, but I don't think he understands that, you know, he probably leaves here in 2 hours and goes home, or, you know, goes to his car and gets in, turns on the heater and heads home. And I have got to try to preserve my dryness and my warmth and my clothes and, you know, all that. So I'm sure this will be one of those days I might stop and take my rain jacket off and on 10 times just because I'm kind of in that position. I can't afford to be too hot, but I can't afford to get too wet either. So we've really been out in the wild for a few days now. You know, not crossing roads and things like that. I'm starting to see a little bit. Hey. Alright, sorry I cut that video off, but now let me make sure I know which way I'm going here. Alright, well, that portion of the video was a mess. You're probably wondering how the heck I got onto a road. But anyway, so I was coming down to the railroad tracks, and I was saying, you know, starting to see some signs of civilization here. There's going to be a road up ahead. There was a parking area back there, and first signs of civilization we've seen for a while, other than those huts, and I'll talk about that more here in a minute. But anyway, then I ran across Dirty Dan, who I think I mentioned the other day. He was the guy that I was hiking up partway up to Franconia Ridge with, and then kind of lost touch with, and so just saw him stealth camping off to the side there. Stopped to say hi, and so I turned the video off, obviously. But then after I crossed the railroad tracks, I was getting ready to start talking again, and I didn't realize there was a parking lot right there, but a guy had just gotten dropped off, and so I stopped videoing there as well. And now I'm on this, now there's a bit of a road walk. So from the parking lot, there's a road walk for 0.3 miles until it crosses a major highway, and then I think I'm getting close to getting back into the trees on the trail. So anyway, yeah, so back to the huts. You know, they are obviously a sign of civilization, but they're really interesting. They are, they're really totally self-contained little units. You know, they do have running water. Not sure how they do that, but they have like outhouse toilets. You know, they have like nice restrooms, but they're just outhouse toilets, and they have some kind of composting system. You know, kind of high-tech composting system that works out there, but there's certainly no you know, they don't flush and things like that. They have solar. They run, I think, entirely on solar. So they're interesting units, and of course, they have no trash. I mean, they create almost no trash. Everybody's trash, they just carry it out themselves. So if you buy something there, you take it out. If you know, whatever. And they don't really have a way to get much in there. So the people that work at those huts hike. You know, it's different for each hut, but they hike 2 or 3 miles once a week to some drop-off points and pick up the supplies, you know, like 50 pounds of supplies, throw it on their back, hike back in, and that's what they use. So it's kind of a neat setup. All right, I think I'm approaching my highway up here. Okay, come out here to US 302, and looks like I just cross over here, and hopefully this will be it. I'm supposed to be jumping onto the Webster Cliff Trail. You know how I explained that out here. So all these trails are also used for the AT. So let's see. Yep, here we go. All right, so you can get a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. So I'm going to be only heading to like where it says Mitzpah Spring AMC Hut and Campsites today. Ugh, It's gonna kill me. Anyway, and then tomorrow I'll be taking off from there and going up Crawford Path right there where it says 6.7 miles and going all the way up Mount Washington and then down the other side. So 332.4 miles to Mount Katahdin. I doubt that's up to date, but it's somewhere in the ballpark. All right, let's get started on my 5.7 additional miles I'm doing today. Ah! So I'm up to the Webster Cliffs. As you can see, the day looks just about like it did yesterday. How you doing this morning?
All right.
You made it up. All right. Well, this tenting area looks like a disaster zone. It's really, everything's just falling down everywhere. I don't know what's up, but look at this place. But anyway, this is where I'm going to be setting up here amongst the bottoms of these trees that have fallen over. And this is right next to, you can't see it, but there's a hut, one of the huts. It's just right there. So I actually made it into the hut, probably a good hour ago, and just sat up there with some of the people from the shelter last night, all of us that were in there miserable together, and just talked and warmed up a little bit, drank some hot water, and just had a candy bar and a couple things. So anyway, I need to set up. I need to get warm because I am really cold, and I think what I'm going to do is go back into the hut and hang out with some of those same people, just so I can be, warmer and drier, and then just come back out here later and crash out. So not a lot to really talk about today. We'll see if I have anything else to say later, but possibly this is good night. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Mount Washington tomorrow. Okay, I warned you ahead of time, this is probably going to be kind of rambling, but so I'm obviously in my tent. I'm going to try to go to bed. I need to get to sleep fast. I need to get up early and get going, because I don't totally know what's in store for me, and it's going to be a hard day tomorrow, getting over Mount Washington. So, where do I start? I got everything set up. Went into the, back into the hut and hung out with some of the people that I had met last night. And some of them I'd met the night before, but anyway, these are people I had really just met, but we spent all that time together yesterday, freezing to death and warming up in the shelter with nothing to do and stuff, and so we got to know each other pretty well. Unfortunately, two of the guys, Miles and Boneless Thighs, some of these names, are getting off the trail tomorrow, so they're gonna go up to Mount Washington and then get picked up and head out, and they're done. And let's see, two of the women, Clementine and Emerald, are taking a day off tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be really cold. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And the next day is supposed to be warmer and clearer, no rain and all that, and so they'll get good views. So they're taking tomorrow off, probably taking a 0, and then they'll get back on the next day and go, unless they change their minds. So it's very likely I won't see them again, because I'll be shooting ahead as fast as I can, but you never know. Of course, the first two guys I'll never see again, but Miles especially, we had long talk today about things. First time we really talked at all, and man, he's just a really neat guy, and it's so crazy out here. I've said this too many times, I know, but it's a shame. Meet these people, and they're so awesome, and you get to know each other so well in such a short period of time, and then they're gone from your life, poof, so anyway. And then who else? slips. She actually hiked ahead tonight a little bit, a few miles, and she'll be summiting tomorrow, doing Mount Washington and everything, but I think she's planning on hiking a little further and getting off and taking a 0 day. So very likely I won't ever see her again, right? Because she'll get off, I'll hike on ahead the next few days and stuff, and then I'll be ahead of her. So plus I think normally I probably hike a little faster than she does anyway. So who else is there? I think maybe feels like I'm leaving somebody else. Oh yeah, there was a guy in the shelter last night, Rocket Man, but I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him at all today, so I don't know. So yeah, it was a really interesting night. It was fun just hanging out with everybody, but then, like all these newfound friends, and then they're all gone, and now I'll just, probably find some new friends in the next few days. So, alright, so I was right, this is rambling. So back to tomorrow. So today and yesterday, it was in the 40s, so pretty cold, rainy, wet. We're all getting soaked. You can't stay dry through your gear, especially through your rain gear, even when it's this cold, because you're climbing so hard. And I mean, the way the climbing is here in the Whites, right? You can't modify yourself. If you climb it at all, you're going to be sweating. So anyway, we're all drenched. So hypothermia, of course, is a big concern. Well, tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 30s, so 10 degrees colder. Not good. But and the more bad news, which I think I already told you in a previous video, there's supposed to be like 12 miles of tomorrow's hike. I'm only hiking 15 miles tomorrow. Like 12 miles of it is above tree line. So totally exposed, like I don't really know what you do with that, but it's going to be cold for a long time. It's supposed to, there's like a 50% chance of rain in the day before 3 p.m. But the good news is it says only about 1/10 of an inch total. So I'm guessing not much rain. So that's good news. And then of course at the end of the day, maybe no rain. So hopefully by then, anyway, maybe I can change into warmer gear. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. It's going to be a hard day. And I'm certainly concerned about hypothermia and getting wet and all that kind of stuff. So my plan is get up early tomorrow morning and hike and hike and hike and hike and just see. There are a few places along the way that I'm aware of. If I'm getting too cold, I could bail out, head down to a shelter that's like on some side trail that's not even part of the AT. And I'm just hoping I don't have to do that. So hopefully this time tomorrow night, I will be in Osgood tent site. I'm sure I will be very cold and very wet, but hopefully no worse than the last couple of days. And ready to move on to the Wildcats, which is the next sort of set of mountains. So tomorrow I'll do Washington and Madison. So I think that wraps up the day. I'm going to try not to be nervous about it and worry about it and just get some good sleep. Later.